I'd like to talk a little bit about the information that you would have seen early in the guide, which is just about staying in touch this summer. And I'd just like to emphasize a few things that are going on now that you're going to be taking care of. So I'm sure that many of you have already seen the website that the admissions department has pointed you to when you were told of your acceptance. When you told us that you had accepted your acceptance, you would have been pointed toward this enrolling students website. So I won't go over it, you've been looking at it, but I do just want to encourage you to keep an eye on the deadlines. A lot of them are coming up this month in June. A few of them are a little later. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, students in the room have probably already filled out the residential life form. That's usually the one that students are most excited about, first of all. Figure out who this mysterious roommate will be that you'll have someday. The bursars, the disability office, there are all kinds of offices that would like information from you. The one I want to emphasize right now, just to plant the seed in your mind, is the health services form. You'll notice on page 7 of the first year guide, there's actually a kind of large bolded message because New York State requires by law that all students have these immunizations before they can attend classes or live on campus. So this is something that we must be very strict about, and because this is something that might require a doctor's appointment for you, it might be something that you need to have a couple weeks notice in order to get in to see your doctor or contact your doctor for documentation. I just want to plant the seed now because the college must enforce this, and so we will not be able to permit any student to move into her dorm room until these have been received. So the sooner you do that, the better. The other thing I wanted to emphasize is about your new Barnard email account. Hopefully you have already been through the process of setting it up. If you haven't, I would encourage you to do so. Students who've received emails from me will probably have received them at both your personal address that you had given to Barnard and at your new Barnard address if it had been given to me when I sent the emails out. Pretty soon I will be defaulting to the Barnard email address, as will everyone else at Barnard. And this is not only the way that we're going to get in touch with you during the summer before you're here, but this is the way that people are going to be getting in touch with you often when you are here and a current student. Professors often get in touch with their classes by email. Sometimes they're sending out assignments that way. Sometimes they're contacting you individually in order to set up an appointment or something like that. So you want to be watching your Barnard email address pretty regularly. Sometimes I hear students say, well, I'm not really much of an email person. Maybe students are spending more time on Facebook, or possibly not very much time online at all. I know that's hard to imagine, but if you're not somebody who spends a lot of time on email, then you will want to get used to checking your email a few times a week. And if you're somebody who's very attached to the email address that you already have, you want to figure out how to connect your email addresses so that you don't miss anything. If you really want to stay focused on your Gmail address, for example, there are ways for you to send the things that come to your Barnard address to the Gmail address to make sure that you're seeing everything that you need to. I will let you know that your email can get a little overwhelming during the year, especially once you put your name in for potential clubs, or people will start contacting you, and you're going to want to figure out, I think, a way to manage your email. It may seem difficult to imagine now, but at some point you might actually get email fatigue and get tired of seeing all the things that show up in your inbox. So it's good to kind of figure out little systems now, whether they're folders or things like that. And I want to stop and ask Mevish if she'll talk about the relationship between your Barnard email and your Columbia email, because this is one of the many ways in which you're sort of wearing different hats and holding different identities as a Barnard student and also part of the larger Columbia universe. So you have those two email addresses, and Mevish, what would you say about those?
Yeah, exactly. Email fatigue. That's a very apt term because everyone is going to be communicating with you through email. Your professors, your TAs, clubs and organizations that you're a part of, the different offices, the administrative offices at Barnard, and you may even want to use your Barnard domain if you're sending out resumes for internships or for jobs over the summer, particularly if you're doing it through an alumni network. That's always good to get the Barnard name associated with you. So it's definitely a good way. I will say, in terms of the Barnard account versus the Columbia account, Barnard is actually, it's now associated with Google. So your barnard.edu address is actually technically a Gmail account. Which is really nice because if anyone has a Gmail account, you'll know that it's very nifty. There are all these gadgets, it becomes very easy. Particularly as students, just the Google Docs app in itself is like a godsend for students to collaborate. And yeah, there are definitely people who know exactly what I'm talking about. So you can do that through the Barnard domain. So personally, I like to use the Barnard account, but I definitely forward all of my Columbia address to my Barnard address, because sometimes professors will automatically send email to your Columbia domain. They won't check to see if you're Barnard or if you're not, so it's also good to check that regularly, even if you don't choose to forward your mail.
Every once in a while, I do hear from a student who has just come across a message that was sent to her columbia.edu address, and she's checking her barnard.edu address often, but hasn't realized that something's sitting there from the professor. So it might even be a good idea to do what Mother suggested and forward the Columbia address to the Barnard address or to your Gmail address as well, just in case. And the last online thing I'd like to emphasize in terms of staying in touch both over the summer and during the year is the first year blog. And so I hope that students have maybe given this a peek. I did reference it in the email that I sent to you in middle May, but then it was a little bit quiet for a while. I was doing a little bit of traveling, but now you'll see that there are additional postings. So after the text of the initial email, you'll see that here's an opportunity for a pre-orientation program that you could apply to. Here is an online version of the guide if you ever want to just access the same contents but be able to look at it on your computer. So I just want to encourage you to keep an eye on that. Not only during the summer will I be posting things on it, but during the year I do regularly post this to provide first years with upcoming deadlines, reminders, opportunities, special things going on campus, information about procedures and things like that. So I would love it if you bookmarked it and got in the habit of looking at it once or twice a week. Sometimes it's more active than others, but there's usually some activity going on there from week to week. And if I could just emphasize what's on there again, not only do you see the postings on the left, but if you look down the right-hand side, you'll see during the school year I will be posting my available walk-in hours if you ever wanted to come by. There's always going to be a calendar of the upcoming semester which will kind of stay current and shrink a little bit as we get further in the semester. So if you continue to scroll down, you'll find a lot of links. And especially over the summer, this may be a place for you to come to anytime you're trying to find something on campus, because I try to link to the things that are most relevant to first-year students. There are other ways to find these sites through the Barnard homepage, the Columbia homepage, but this is a place you can always go if you can't remember exactly where a site was online. You can look for it on the blog, so you'll see lots of student services listed. You'll see academic departments. If you link to this, you'll be able to find the specific website for a program. And there are also a few sites, you'll see only those which I think are most relevant, but a few sites on the Columbia site as well that you may want to know, and I'll come back to these in a bit.